Every year, the average chicken keeper spends up to $900 on feed loaded with synthetic additives, while their great-grandparents paid nothing and produced richer eggs using 3 natural systems. Historical records show zero feed expenses, yet today backyard flocks depend on a billion-dollar industry. Why did free, healthier abundance vanish so completely? The answer is buried in forgotten methods and what replaced them. Feed costs hit hard and fast. For a backyard flock, 4 or 5 hens, the bill climbs to $600, sometimes $900 every year. That is $50 to $75 a month just to keep eggs on the table. The numbers do not lie. At today's prices, a single bag of layer pellets runs $18 to $30, and most birds need at least 1 a month. Multiply that by 12, add in the treats, supplements, and scratch, and the receipts add up. But the real gut punch is not just the price. Flip over a bag of commercial feed, and the ingredients list reads like a chemistry set. Soybean meal, corn, synthetic methionine, and in many brands, residues from pesticides like glyphosate. Some even include growth promoters and amino acids that are banned in human food but show up here because they boost egg production. The industry calls it efficient. Regulators say it is within limits. But the truth is, most chicken owners have no idea what is actually in the feed their birds eat, or what ends up in those eggs. The feed companies do not advertise the synthetic additives or the imported grains treated with chemicals. They do not mention that ractopamine, a growth hormone banned in dozens of countries, is still legal in US animal feed. And while the industry points to safety standards, the reality is that the system is built for profit, not for backyard health. Every dollar spent on feed flows into a market now worth more than $70 billion worldwide. For most families, there is no way around it. Pay up, or the eggs stop coming. The feed aisle becomes a monthly toll booth, and the price keeps rising. But it was not always this way. The old ways did not just cost less, they worked better. The question is not whether you can afford another year of commercial feed. It is why you are paying at all, when the solution has been hiding in plain sight for generations. Ledger books from the 1880s tell a silent story. Page after page lists seed, salt, fencing, and flour, but never chicken feed. In Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, German farmers kept detailed accounts of every penny spent, yet their diaries make no mention of buying feed for poultry. Instead, chickens appear as helpers, not as a cost, moving through gardens, cleaning up kitchen scraps, scratching for insects beneath orchard trees. The only grains recorded, cracked corn or oats, were shared freely with the rest of the livestock, not purchased as a special ration for hens. The 1910 USDA census backs this up. Farms, sometimes with dozens of birds, reported expenses for tools and labor but not for feed. Chickens were woven into the daily rhythm of the farm, supported by waste and abundance, not by purchases. An agricultural historian reviewing hundreds of these old records put it plainly: chicken feed was not listed as an expense. It was not even a category. Farmers were not buying it. Manuals from the late 19th century echo the same pattern. Lewis Wright's poultry guides describe flocks ranging over pasture, gathering seeds, insects, and mast. There is advice on letting birds into orchards after harvest or giving them access to kitchen refuse, but no mention of budgeting for sacks of feed. Even the American Standard of Perfection, published in 1898, recommends orchard access for acorns and chestnuts, not for purchased grain. Among Appalachian and Amish families, these routines continued for generations. Oral histories from Rockingham County, Virginia, recall grandmothers scattering bread crusts and meat scraps, while chickens roamed under beech and oak trees. The idea of a monthly feed bill would have sounded strange, almost wasteful. For them, eggs were a byproduct of a system that cost nothing extra at all. The evidence is everywhere except in the feed column. History does not just suggest an alternative, it proves that for most of human memory, chicken feed was free because nature provided, and farmers knew how to work with it. Acorns thudding to the ground in October once meant more than the coming of winter. For centuries, the autumn mast harvest was a cornerstone of poultry keeping, so routine that old manuals barely bothered to explain it. The principle was simple: let the chickens loose beneath oaks, chestnuts, and beeches as the nuts began to fall. Each tree, mature and healthy, dropped 1 to 2 bushels of mast every year, enough to feed 10 birds for a full week. With 20 to 30 trees per acre, a small orchard could sustain a flock of 50 through the lean months, no grain sacks needed. The species mattered: white oak, red oak, American chestnut before the blight, and the towering beech, all named in 19th century guides, offered a mix of protein, fat, and the deep yellow pigments that coloured egg yolks, a shade now seen only in heirloom kitchens. Carotenoids from mast forage transformed eggs, producing yolks so orange they bordered on red, impossible to mimic with corn or synthetic feed. Old-timers judged a hen's health by the colour of her yolks, not by a label on a bag. Timing was everything. Chickens were kept out of the grove until the first hard frost, when tannin levels in acorns dropped and the nuts fell thick. For 4 to 6 weeks, the birds worked the leaf litter, cracking shells, digging for hidden chestnuts, and leaving nothing behind but clean soil and the promise of richer eggs. The manuals cautioned against stripping every nut. Leave some for wildlife and for next year's crop. Backyard keepers today can revive this system with as few as 10 trees spaced 20 feet apart and mulched at the roots. A simple wire fence keeps the flock out until mast season begins. Then, for a month, the feed bill drops to 0, and every breakfast egg tells the story of a system older than the feed store itself. In spring, the garden becomes the heart of the flock's diet and the farm's productivity. Instead of scattering grain, a permaculture practitioner divides the garden into 4 to 6 zones, each about 50 square feet per hen. This zoning is not guesswork. It is rooted in old extension bulletins and modern field trials. The flock rotates through these zones in a set rhythm. For 1 or 2 weeks, chickens enter a plot just after the first seedlings have sprouted tall enough to withstand scratching. Their job is simple: hunt slugs, beetles, and weed seeds hiding beneath the leaves. Manure drops behind them, rich in nitrogen and phosphorus, feeding the next round of crops without a single bag of fertilizer. The timing is everything. If the birds arrive too early, they will devour tender shoots. Too late, and pests multiply unchecked. Practitioners watch for that window, usually 3 to 4 weeks after planting greens or peas, when chickens can clear out trouble without harming the harvest. As the flock moves, the garden responds. Reports from small farms and backyard plots show pest damage dropping by 70 to 90%, while vegetable yields climb. The birds swap feed for fresh forage: dandelion leaves, worm-riddled lettuce, young grasshoppers. Every day the feed bill shrinks. Every week the soil grows darker, richer, more alive. This method is not just for sprawling homesteads. Even a modest backyard can support a flock with careful planning. Mobile fencing or lightweight chicken tractors make rotation easy, keeping birds where they are needed most. Some practitioners plant fast-growing cover crops such as clover, buckwheat, and rye to fill gaps between main crops, giving chickens a steady supply of greens while resting other zones. The system adapts to the flock's appetite and the gardener's schedule, replacing spring feed with a living buffet. By the time summer arrives, the garden is thriving, the chickens are healthy, and the only thing missing is a receipt from the feed store. Compost does not just break down waste, it breeds feed. In the heat of summer, a simple bin transforms leftovers and trimmings into a living protein engine for chickens. The method is old, but the details matter. Start with a wooden frame 3 feet wide, 3 feet deep, and just 1 foot tall. That is enough space for 20 birds, no fancy equipment required. Layer kitchen scraps, garden weeds, and a bit of straw or dry leaves to keep the carbon and nitrogen in balance. Around 30 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen, the same ratio old-timers used for healthy compost. Routine is key. Add new waste once or twice a week, never letting the pile dry out or get too soggy. As temperatures climb to 80 or 90 degrees, black soldier flies and other native insects lay eggs in the pile. Within days, the bin crawls with larvae, each one nearly 40% protein, richer than most commercial feeds. Chickens know the sound and smell. They will line up at the edge, waiting for the morning turn at the pile. Some innovators add a simple ramp or mesh screen so larvae wriggle out as they mature, dropping straight into the run. The birds do the rest, harvesting fresh feed with every visit. In the right conditions, a single bin can supply half or more of a flock's summer protein. Reports from modern homesteaders and Amish families confirm the numbers. A 3 foot by 3 foot by 1 foot bin, managed well, produces enough larvae to feed 20 hens for weeks at a time. No grain, no supplements, just the cast-offs of the kitchen and garden transformed by heat and instinct into eggs. This is not theory, it is a practice, as old as the barnyard, revived by those tired of paying for what nature gives away. The compost bin closes the loop. Summer waste becomes feed, and the cycle runs on nothing but scraps, sunlight, and a little patience. In 1947, the first wave of commercial feed mills began rolling out across the Midwest, promising farmers a new era of convenience. Behind the scenes, industry executives and agricultural extension agents drafted the playbook for a different kind of farming. By 1953, a set of official poultry feeding guidelines landed on the desks of county agents and 4-H leaders. These documents, stamped with the authority of land-grant universities and the USDA, outlined precise rations and feeding schedules down to the ounce. The message was clear: healthy, productive flocks required scientifically balanced, store-bought feed. These guidelines didn't just shape advice, they rewrote the rules. Feed companies funded 4-H club pamphlets and sponsored county fairs, putting their brand logos on prize ribbons and demonstration coops. Young farmers learned to measure out pellets and mash, tracking every scoop as proof of modern management. The old ways, letting chickens clean up orchards, graze garden beds, or pick through compost, were quietly recast as outdated, even irresponsible. Through policy memos and glossy marketing, the industry replaced tradition with dependency. The shift didn't happen overnight, but each new guideline, contest, and sponsored youth program nudged another generation away from free feed and toward the checkout line. By the early 1960s, the commercial feed industry had achieved something no farm supply company ever managed before: near total control over how chickens were fed. The numbers are staggering. Today, the global animal feed market is valued at over $70 billion, with poultry feed making up a massive share of that total. This market did not just appear overnight. It grew year by year as more farmers abandoned free systems and bought into the promise of predictable production. The shift was powered by a single scientific breakthrough: the discovery of vitamins A and D in the 1920s. With these nutrients added to feed, chickens could be raised indoors, cut off from sunlight and pasture. That change unlocked confinement farming on a national scale. Flocks were no longer limited by the seasons or the land, but the price was dependency. Every bag of feed, every scoop of pellets became a monthly necessity, not a choice. The industry reinforced this dependency by fortifying rations with synthetic vitamins and amino acids, making it impossible for most breeds to thrive without them. The result is a system where the feed aisle dictates the rules, and the old knowledge of how to feed chickens for free fades into memory. For most, the cost is not just financial. It is the loss of self-reliance, traded for a promise of convenience that locked an entire generation of farmers and families into a cycle that is hard to break. 3 years ago, a small homestead in Oregon kept careful track of every dollar spent on their flock. The first season, the feed receipts totaled $847, bags of pellets, supplements, and grit, all logged in a notebook, beside egg counts. By the third year, those numbers told a different story. After planting mast trees, rotating chickens through the garden and building a simple compost bin for summer larvae, the annual feed cost dropped to just $23. That covered a few packets of seeds, nothing more. The egg basket stayed full. The homesteader wrote that they were tired of paying for feed, and now the birds feed themselves, and the garden grows better too. For this family, the feed aisle became a memory, not a monthly bill. The numbers in their logbook offer proof. The system works, and the savings are real. Laboratory tests comparing eggs from chickens raised on these traditional systems to those from birds fed only commercial rations reveal a striking difference. Foraged eggs contain more than double the omega-3 fatty acids, an increase of over 200%. Vitamin E content climbs even higher, sometimes reaching 3 times the concentration found in standard supermarket eggs. These numbers are not marketing claims. They come from independent analyses repeated in university and extension studies since the 1970s. The color of the yolk tells part of the story, but the nutritional profile goes deeper. Carotenoids, vitamin A, and antioxidant levels all rise when chickens eat acorns, fresh greens, and live insects instead of processed pellets. The result is an egg that is not just richer in flavor and color, but measurably superior in nutrients, offering proof that these old systems give more than just savings. They produce a food the modern supply chain cannot match. 12 weeks is all it takes to flip the script. Start by choosing hardy, active breeds. Rhode Island Reds, Australorps, or Barred Rocks are birds known for foraging and resilience. Not just laying numbers. Plant at least 10 mast trees this fall, spaced 20 feet apart, and mulch the roots to kickstart next year's autumn harvest. Divide your garden into 4 zones, fence off each section, and plan a simple rotation, 1 week per zone as crops mature. Build a 3 by 3 foot compost bin with a ramp, layering kitchen scraps and dry leaves twice a week. For the first month, bridge the gap with a handful of scratch grains or sprouted seeds if needed. Track every dollar, every egg, every change. By the end of the season, the numbers speak for themselves, and the feed aisle is no longer in control. Today, nearly all store-bought eggs trace back to feed factories, not fields or forests. As food costs and supply chain risks climb, reclaiming these free, natural systems becomes more than nostalgia, it is resilience. The knowledge wasn't lost, it was buried. The choice is now in your hands, dependency or the freedom to feed your flock from the land itself. What would you choose? Share your thoughts below.